This isn't charity. This is good business.
Angel City was just sold for $250 million. Alexis Ohanian bought an 8% stake in Chelsea that would value Chelsea's women's team at $326 million.
You keep going on this trajectory. My God, like buckle up.
Oh my God, I miss you so much. I haven't seen you forever.
What has it been? Not even 24 hours, I think. And before we start,
No.
I just want to say, no. Look, I had this for you, and I had your name on it. I just am a bad person.
I love you
and
so much. It would be hard to carry that with us in the VIP section of Sports Illustrated, though. I think
I like how you
that
had
was
to
a good
say
choice.
a VIP section. Not just that we were at the game. You're like, we were in a VIP section, which makes us sound a lot cooler than we are.
What did you think? That was your first Gotham game. I mean, it was an amazing game.
Oh my God. I was, they gave up a goal 2 minutes into it, and I was like, uh-oh, it's going to be a long day. But the fact that they rallied the halftime subs to perfection and such a great game, some amazing goals, let's go. Let's go back. I'm excited.
I know. We'll go back, and I feel like last night's game also showed us, not only Gotham is really serious about making the playoffs. I think last night's game was a great match that showed how investing seriously in a team can bring on the pitch success. We saw many important names, including the new ownership group of Angel City FC. They were there. They were supporting the team after a lot that has happened last week, which we will go back to talking about it in a minute. But welcome back to Finance of Football, where we break down the business side of the beautiful game. I'm Asli Pellet, the Athletics Women's Soccer writer.
And I'm freelance sports journalist Michael Array.
Today, we're not only diving into Gotham versus Angel City, which is a fantastic rivalry. We're going to dive into the rivalry that is not on the field, but on the balance sheet. Who does it better? NWSL in the United States or Women's Super League in England? Who's actually leading the change in women's soccer, Michael?
I like that. And I think it's a rivalry that goes back to American independence, right? U.S. versus England. We're gonna get revolutionary with this discussion today. But it's true, right?
In 22 minutes.
In 22 minutes, exactly. 200 years of history. But no, it's true. England invented football, soccer, the beautiful game. They gave us the name soccer, by the way, for anyone who is saying, oh, it's called football. But it's way more nuanced, right? We know the Premier League is the top league on the men's side. But, in women's soccer, it's way more nuanced, right? Because the numbers tell the story and they tell us why and who's leading and who's catching up and who maybe needs to reinvent themselves here.
And if we're going to talk about numbers, I think we have to go back to basics. And let's talk about the NWSL. It's barely a teenager, founded in 2012, first season of 2013. Women's Super League is a little older. However, the valuations skyrocketed on this side first, because NWSL teams were franchises. The first franchises were going almost for nothing, for crumbles. I remember Angel City FC's was said at the time that the franchise value was around $1 to $2 million. Angel City was just sold to Willow Bay and Bob Iger, Disney CEO, for $250 million. That was a record-breaking sale, which, by the way, got broken recently because American investors perhaps got, priced out of NWSL and started looking very seriously on the other side, in the Women's Super League side. And American investor Serena Williams' husband and tech mogul Alexis Ohanian bought an 8% stake in Chelsea that would value Chelsea's women's team at $326 million and making them the most expensive women's soccer team globally, surpassing Angel City, where he also has a stake.
I love it. As a fan of the leagues, as a fan of women's soccer, to see these valuations going higher and higher. And we talk about the club valuations for Real Madrid and Barcelona and Manchester United. Now that we have these women's teams that are starting to get, their flowers, right? And exactly, right? The trajectory is up. It's that hockey stick growth. And I interviewed Alexis a few years ago when he was honored by the Women's Sports Foundation for his contributions and his investments in the women's game. And he goes, this isn't charity. This is good business. Like, I'm not doing this to look good and to get good PR. He goes, I'm doing this to make money. And there is money to be made in the women's game. The men's game, yes, the TV rights and all that kind of stuff like that, but it's kind of plateaued when you compare it to the women's game and you see the exponential growth. And we're seeing it now that we have this rivalry, like I said, this revolutionary rivalry between the US and England now in terms of who's going to set the bar again in women's soccer. And it's just great to see. And, you're covering this day in and day out for The Athletic. So I'd obviously love to, get your take on, how and why did the NWSL valuations go bananas? Let's talk about that. And then just what the WSL is doing to really not only catch up, but potentially surpass them.
And number one reason where the valuations go up in sports teams is scarcity value, right? There's only so many teams you can buy, even though NWSL's commissioner, Jessica Berman, mentioned in many of her press conferences, why can't we be like NFL? So right now there's 14 teams. Next season, there's going to be 16 teams. They're already Boston and Denver adding, but not more than 32, right? There's not going to be a 33rd team. So that makes valuations go up, broadcast deals and how that impacts the budget. But I think in America, there are a few other reasons that I think we should mention. First of all, culture. Women's soccer culture in the US is not adjacent or an add-on to men's soccer culture. It is the mainstream culture. It is the culture of soccer in the US. I would say before, as a foreigner thinking soccer in America, what came to my mind, world champion women's national team, right? They actually set the scene for the sport here. I think their dominance built a fan base that sees women's soccer not as a side dish, as the main course. Like, I love using that example. This is the main course. The league is amazing. We have an incredible pool of talent because now that talent is flying over to the other side of the Atlantic, which we'll talk about in a minute. But sponsorship, like Ally, Nike, Gamebridge,
Delta, right? Yeah.
Delta, everybody is trying to take part in the women's soccer here because that's where they know they will get the eyeballs they're looking for. But also a recent study from Parity, I wrote about this last week. 1 in 4 women's soccer fans are more likely to purchase something from the sponsor of their team than any other women's sports fan. So that means there's a loyal fan base. Also, I think the other very important thing is like, these are not clubs that are part of a men's club. They are their own club. Some of them own their own stadium. That means, revenue generation is guaranteed. They control their balance sheet because they take all the money from these sponsors. They don't have to share it with anybody else, which makes them, I think, more attractive. And therefore, the valuations are going up. Of course, the valuations go up on this side of the Atlantic. But I think now that American owners of the EPL realize the potential, they are carving out their women's soccer team and commercializing it separately, at least partially in minority stake situation. And that's how Alexis Ohanian could come in and bought a minority stake. And I think we will see more of that, which will eventually impact the valuations on the other side of, let's see, Chelsea's men's team, what is it, $4 billion, a little over that in value. Of course, their women's soccer team is going to be also highly valued, and they're winning the championship, of course, but also like they have access to UEFA Women's Champions League, which also brings revenue to the team.
This isn't, it's not for charity. It's not, okay, it would be a nice thing to do. Like, there's a supply and there's a demand, and the demand is growing. And the fact that you can look at different clubs, different countries, whether it's England, Spain, Germany, etc., they're setting attendance record after attendance record. And it's not by accident, right? Over here in the States, we're seeing, high water marks in the NWSL and WNBA and even at the collegiate level, right? They had 90,000 people for Nebraska women's volleyball. And it's like, it's great to see. So just the opportunity there is so exciting. And I think it's a situation where it's iron sharpens iron, that we were so used to the U.S. women's national team was the cream of the crop and it was everybody else. And now that crop is starting to rise and we need to set the bar even higher. But what that's going to do is just push the game further all around the world. That's going to mean higher player transfer fees, better facilities and stadiums, right? It's women's soccer specific stuff. Look what Kansas City is doing with the Current, and they're having women's soccer specific facilities and stadiums. And it's like, it was almost unheard of.
Sold out season after season. Let's just not forget that they actually have a crowd. They might add new stands because there's so much demand for it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a testament. It's that whole, if you build it, they will come. And I think a lot of people are now understanding there is value in this. It's not some sort of, okay, well, we have a women's team too, kind of like a nice little add-on. Like, this is a premium product, and we're seeing now this arms race. I said it in other podcasts, this arms race in women's soccer, as much as we have it in, men's soccer with Premier League clubs and La Liga and all these guys just spending these astronomical figures. Obviously, the women's game isn't there yet, but you keep going on this trajectory. My God, like, buckle up.
I think here is like a very, maybe good place to plug some of the other data that maybe can shed a light to this rivalry between like who's better, who's going to get bigger first. I think I'm going to like take the conversation to an on the pitch topic, because I think that was like the headline last week. Angel City FC's, star striker, 20-year-old Alyssa Thompson. She had a contract with the team till 2028. Loved and cherished with her sister Giselle, who's also playing in the team as a duo. They're a commercial entity. I mean, they had their own sponsorship deals. They have a makeup sponsor. They have like, I think Nike is their sponsor. So they had everything going on for them. Imagine like this girl who grew up in LA, born and raised in front of family and friends. And what does she do? She says, my dream is to go play for Chelsea. I think, exactly. Bye. And I was like, okay, we're thinking about the valuations that are growing, the audiences are growing. However, I think these two leagues going to have a lot of crossover in terms of talent coming. A lot of Europeans are coming and playing here because this is the most exciting and very challenging, chaotic. You never know who's going to make it to the playoffs. Young talent from here wants to go over there and they want to see what it feels to like have a Champions League experience. And I think the quality in both leagues are just going to be better and better, which will also make the most important thing, right? The broadcasting product more interesting. I feel like NWSL has a very lucrative broadcasting deal. $240 million. It is across CBS, ESPN, and Amazon Prime. Serious money that guarantees visibility. And the better the players are, the talent is here. In the next cycle, they will negotiate a better deal. The same thing happens at WSL. They have a very good broadcast deal with Sky and BBC. And last minute on Friday, right before Alyssa's Chelsea debut, we found out that they also renewed a year-long extension with ESPN. So that means we can watch all these games on our television sets. And I feel like that is just going to make the competition more fierce.
The biggest thing is accessibility, right? Not only for players having more than one option of, okay, well, this is the best league, or this is, one of the top leagues. This is my only option. I need to play here if I want to make the national team and achieve all the goals I want to. Now you have an option, right? Where you maybe are in the US and you want to go abroad, or vice versa. And I don't know if it's a case of the grass is always greener or just wanting to go and get that kind of life experience, but there is value in playing in both of those leagues. And I think if you are the NWSL and the WSL, you need to understand that there is going to be this flip-flopping of stars, and maybe one has a run and they have some stars, and then NWSL, we're going to have, 2-3 more expansion teams, and then the stars want to come back kind of deal. Like, this isn't MLS versus Premier League, right? Like, that's
this is not the retirement league. Let's just talk about that.
Like, the NWSL is the top league in women's soccer, and the WSL is saying like, hey, don't forget about us, right? And then you also have leagues in Spain and Germany and these other countries that they're not throwaway leagues, but they're growing in the investment in the women's game, right? Like a lot of these leagues and these clubs, they would have a women's team and they would be amateurs. They wouldn't necessarily have that professional status. So you have that. You don't have top tier coaches. You don't have top tier facilities. You don't have that investment as you would if you were a professional team. And then now that tide is shifting because, again, people see it as just it's a great opportunity. And you also want to create, opportunities for men and women. So, if you have the choice between going to the Frauen Bundesliga or NWSL, no offense to the league in Germany, but you're going to go to the NWSL. But that doesn't mean there aren't clubs. Look at Barcelona. Look at Wolfsburg. Like there are top European teams that don't sit in England.
Let's not forget Italy. Mercury 13, one of the funds that invests in women's soccer, just purchased 2 years ago Como Women that competes at Serie A's Women League. We know for a fact it was maybe a silent beauty, but now Italian soccer is becoming a big deal as well. They're catching up. Their Euro success was pretty impressive. Sofia Cantore, right after the Euro in Switzerland, came to play at NWSL. And when I think about Germany and Spain, these are still great countries that have incredible talent. They're soccer countries, they're soccer hotbeds. So girls who grow up now are training under incredibly well-established clubs to be really good players. And I think they have opportunity to show how good they are, and they have opportunity to play at home. They have opportunity to go somewhere else. They have opportunity to come here. Because another thing that makes, I think, NWSL very attractive is higher salaries. Like they make more money here, right? Like Esther from Spain was one of the highest transfers at the time when she came after the World Cup. Her teammate, Akibi, the goalkeeper from Gotham, German, she's from the German national team. She was incredible at the Euros, Switzerland. These are the players that have a big following, I think, both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. And we have access to them now through this variety of TV deals. There's abundance of tournaments for the woman to have visibility, and that visibility brings them financial opportunities. When we think about financial and business deals, let's not forget Alex Morgan, who was a trailblazer, a pioneer in showing women athletes their worth and how good they are and how much money they should be making for equal pay, but also understanding at a very early age the importance of brand partnerships and sponsorships that have authentic relationships with the brand. And I think here in the US, it's probably one step ahead of England or Spain or Germany. But I look at England and some of the Lionesses, they're also catching up and coming to the same level as American soccer stars to have career businesses that can bring them financial stability and also seat at a table at a time when they can still invest in the sport they put in the map.
Yeah, and that's a big thing too, right? We're seeing it with athletes, men and women, that they are these brands and they have a certain equity that actual brands, corporate brands, want to pay them and be a part of and be associated with. And women's basketball, for example, you have all these great players. They're not getting paid a ton in the WNBA, so they have to go overseas to try to make even more money. And if you're a fan of insert player, you're going to follow that player wherever they're playing. And then especially if you're a brand too, you now get exposure in a different market. So on the soccer side, as those salaries and the transfer fees, right? Alyssa Thompson was over $1 million. Naomi Gurma was over $1 million. It's like they're just going up and up and up. And now you have brands associated with these players in these different leagues now getting more exposure on television. Of course, if you're a brand, yeah, you want to sign all of these players because that's how you're going to make money and how you're going to get, like you said at the start, fans spend more because they understand the association between club or player and certain brand. So it makes sense to do that. I'm just so excited over all of it. And one other quick point on my end, it's like, I love that there's more opportunities for players on the field. What these leagues and these clubs also need to continue to do is create opportunities off the field. That's coaches, that's trainers, that's grassroots academies, youth system, referees, right? Like, you can't have some B-level coach trying to coach, a professional women's team. And then it's like, well, the product isn't going to be good because you don't have a coach coaching at the highest level. So you need to increase the standards of just everything around it, because that's how you're going to create a better product on the field, which then leads to better TV deals, which leads to more sponsors, which leads to more audience, merchandise, you name it. So it's like you have to spend money to make money. And I think in women's soccer, especially in the States and especially in England, I'm not saying that they're just getting it, because it's been an investment for years, decades, but it's like now it's becoming a smart business decision and people are doing it. I don't know how long it'll take to kind of reap the fruits of that labor, but we're definitely trending in the right direction. And it's just continuing to create that entire ecosystem, especially here in the U.S., because you don't want to lose your best players, right, to another country. Great. We have the Thompson sisters and they're, the future of the national team and all this stuff. It's such a great story. Well, one is gone. What's to say the other one doesn't leave too?
So maybe this isn't like who wins the rivalry question. Like, if we measure by valuations or sponsorship and autonomy, maybe one league, NWSL, is right now sprinting ahead. But if you measure by quality of play, global reach, and player development, like Alyssa and another talent, like flying over there to be part of something, shiny and new and perhaps more attractive, maybe WSL is leading the game. So I feel like maybe the real answer to what we're discussing is they're not competitors, but they're running parallel races. And together, they're pushing women's soccer into this billion-dollar era, because this healthy level of competition will only make things more interesting. I'm all about interesting rivalries. If somebody really leads and theirs is always winning, then they will be stagnant or stale at one point. So I think this is great that WSL attracts the new talent on the other side, because that means we have to do more here. And the same happens here. They look at us and like, ooh, their valuations are higher, that people are filling stadiums and they have better stadiums, and then they have to build the stadiums on the other side. So I feel like this is a great rivalry, the one that we want for the women's soccer to grow globally and take the space and, establish itself a name. And then we would never have to discuss which one is better. It would be, I think, a much interesting era for the sport going forward.
Can't wait. Let's do it.
Let's do it. I mean, I'm cool. I'm hip. Remember that. I'm cool. I'm hip.
I don't think that's how you do it.
Finance of Football comes to you from the Frequency Machine Podcast Network. Hit us up on social on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube
for more football business and our enlightened opinions.
This episode was produced by co-hosts Asa Pellet and Michael Larray. It was edited by Ryan Hammond. Mixing and mastering by Julian Kwasniewski. Our theme music is by Hatametsunami. Our show is executive produced by Stacy Book and Avi Glajansky for Frequency Machine. Find more about Finance of Football at frequencymachine.com. Follow us on YouTube at Finance of Football and listen anywhere you get podcasts. Please like and subscribe. Help us reach more people. We love you for it.